Yes guys, how's it going? Welcome back to a new video. It's Friday. I feel very ready for the weekend. It has been a busy, stressful week to be a Newcastle fan with all of the social media reports, rumours going on in this transfer window. Good news is that Alexander Isak is set to stay. However, despite all of the talk, all of the stress, Newcastle are another week closer to the start of the Premier League without an additional signing. We did bring Elanga in, but we want more. And Eddie Howe has spoken about it in an interview yesterday, so we're going to talk a little bit about that. And after what seems to be game over for Newcastle and Hugo Ekitike, Newcastle are looking at 2 strikers and 3 centre-backs are being touted as our next top target. So we'll go through all of that in today's video. Before we do, be sure to do me a favour and hit that subscribe button. As I say, getting closer and closer to 50k. So do me that favour. And yeah, grab a cup of tea, grab a beer if you're ready for your Friday night to start early, and we'll get into this one. So as I say, Eddie Howe has been out and spoken about what's been going on in the last week. Great to see some of the videos and photos coming out from Newcastle United. Obviously, they're over in Austria getting their pre-season started, but they have found a bit of time to have a bit of fun as well. Some videos of them on boats, on the rapids. Wissa, I think, is he a footballer or is he just made for the camera? Because he's accidentally getting splashed in the face and all sorts. So yeah, nice to see that kind of thing coming out from Newcastle. Does give you a smile. Elanga doing a few interviews, talking really passionately about being a Newcastle United player, and just generally sounds like he's got his head screwed on, talking about wanting to play alongside Isak. I mean, again, as I say, big week for us, talking about Isak staying. The next step really is Elanga going, well, I've got 4 years left on my deal, Alexander Isak. Can you do you want to stick an extra year on yours as well? Come on, Elanga, come on, Asula. Someone get in his ear and tell him to get that contract signed. But yes, great to see some of this stuff out. And as I say, Eddie Howe was spoken to, and there is an interview of him discussing a little bit of behind the scenes of what's been going on. He spoke about the fact that it's been great to get the players back, great to get everyone back on the pitch, getting prepared. As I say, Celtic tomorrow in Glasgow for a few days, I believe, before they then head off to Singapore, South Korea. I don't think they're coming back to Newcastle. It's very much a jet set off, and here we go, and then back in time for the Celtic Cup and the start of the season. So Eddie Howe has said that although the on-the-pitch stuff, having the players here has been very positive, very exciting, looking forward to the new season, he did, however, say that essentially he's seemed a bit miffed. And I would go as far to say I don't think Eddie Howe's necessarily an angry person, but seemed a little bit flat, actually. Like, I don't want to spin this video negatively, as I say, despite what has been a busy week, the hope is that Newcastle will continue to push, and that's what Eddie Howe has said. But he did say there's been a lot of work going on in the background for what he said, very little result. And then we've seen that ourselves this week. That's how I started this video. This was clearly, people saying, oh, Newcastle were never in for Ekitike. It was just to pull Liverpool out so they would go for Isak and then they would get him. I don't think so. I do genuinely believe that Newcastle had meetings in Germany about Ekitike, had their representatives fly to Austria, where I'm very sure Eddie Howe was probably part of the talks to try and get Ekitike, and then it basically just exploded and then nothing happened. You talk about Delap, you talk about Pedro, you talk about Ekitike for the striker side of things, you talk about Mbuemo. I think we have been very involved in a lot of these. They were key targets that I think Newcastle and Eddie Howe had listed, and they haven't gone our way. It's great that we have Elanga, and that is a massive tick in that right winger box, but it's not enough. And Eddie Howe knows it. Eddie Howe knows it. That's why Eddie Howe is talking in that manner. I think what he wanted was clear. He wanted stuff done early in the summer to get it ready so that he wasn't having to still be part of these conversations while he's in Celtic, while he's in Singapore, while he's on the other side of the world in a completely different time zone, trying to ring the office back at the Newcastle training ground going, so did we get that guy? That's why I think he seemed tired. I think he's worked really hard to just get stuff finalised. And then I guess this is where I throw the question out to you. He spoke about the fact that Paul Mitchell leaving just before the start of the summer as well. Like, has Eddie Howe been, backed enough by the ownership and because the money's there? So it's a real tough balance, because fair enough, the money's there, but you don't just want to buy anyone. The important thing is that he did say that we are still working hard and want to make things happen. He was essentially saying, like, we need to do more. We need to bring in players. So as much as this week may have felt like a little bit of a, like, from what was so, like, irate through Tuesday, Wednesday, suddenly Friday, it's got a little bit quiet. And I think that's because Eddie Howe's preparing for the game against Celtic. I expect things to ramp up again next week. And as I've mentioned already, it's clear that there are a few top targets being listed. Have a drink of my cup of tea, sorry. 2 seconds. So, as I mentioned, the 2 top targets for striker position, we'll start with Wissa, the Brentford striker. That has been given the green light from David Ornstein. That one's been posted quite a bit, that Newcastle have approached Brentford or are in talks to get something working with him. The downside, however, is that in doing so has basically pushed Manchester United to actually wake up and buy Mbeumo, because he was set to go, wasn't set to go. They've just held off forever because they wanted to get him on a cheaper fee. I think Brentford have turned around and gone, look, if you don't buy Mbeumo, we're going to sell Wissa and Newcastle. Manchester United have now offered 70 million for Mbeumo, and the question is, would Brentford let go of one of their key strikers, having already let go of one of their best players, let go of Thomas Frank as well? Well, this is the thing. People are saying that they wouldn't, but I think there's every chance that they will. And it's basically down to his contract. Wissa has one year left on his contract, and fair enough, Brentford are going 50 million. People are that's what Brentford are maybe saying. But the reports coming out from a lot of journalists are saying, or reports are coming out and saying a fee of closer to 25-30 million because of the fact he has 1 year left on his deal, which for me, I think in terms of price-wise works for Newcastle, because it means Isak's number 1, and then Wissa can come in and is very versatile across the front 3, is a speedy little lad. We'll talk about why that matters more in a second. But fair enough, Brentford might not want to let go of all their top players, but what are they going to do? Not let him go, and then he'll leave for free in a year anyway, unless they want to risk it and drag it all the way down to January. But by then he can talk to teams and walk out the door for free anyway. So I guess the question is, I think one of these for Newcastle is that we put some money on a table and go, look, that's where we are. While you're deciding on whether you want to sell him or not, we'll go look somewhere else. The other trouble with Wissa is that he likes Thomas Frank, and if Thomas Frank has gone to Spurs, and Spurs are also interested. So like Newcastle, every transfer Newcastle has tried to make this season, somehow somebody else is looking for him as well. And I'm kind of jumping in a little bit, but something else that I wanted to mention that I'm hoping Newcastle can really get to work on is the idea of, and it's hard because if he's got, Andy Howe, Steve Nixon, like you don't know where people are and what they're up to, but it definitely seems like we're going for him. Didn't work. We'll go for him. Didn't work. And I like that. I like the idea of that in principle, because it means you can give loads of energy to this one deal, but then you do loads of energy for 2 weeks of Ekatike and it doesn't work out, and then you're left with your pants around your ankles going, well, who do we go for now? Like, I think... And I think this is, as I've said this previously, like Paul Mitchell leaving, there was a side of, I think, me and maybe, and let me know your thoughts down below, there was a part of me that was like, you know what, maybe it's a good thing. From all the reports have said, he sounded like a bit of an idiot, to be honest, quote unquote. But, and he certainly didn't fit in, and things didn't go the way he wanted. But it was another pair of hands. It was another pair of hands on deck. Someone who knows the foreign market, someone who knows this and knows that. And if Eddie Howe, like, at least it gives Paul Mitchell the list and goes, look, mate, I know you want to do your own thing, but I'm not going to let you. But here's 10 players. Go buy one of them. Whereas instead, we're left with this situation which feels like Eddie Howe's going, right, Steve, here's Ekitike's phone number. Can you give him a bell? And then we'll ring up and they go, oh, no, he's busy now. Oh, right, well, okay, have you got Wissa's number? Oh, well, I know one of his pals. I'll go and fetch it for you, Eddie. Like, it just feels like we're in this place where we're going one by one by one. And I don't mind it. We did that with Elanga. It worked because you give them the love and the care and the attention. They want to come to Newcastle because Eddie Howe's the one. It's not, oh yeah, my assistant will take that phone call for you. It's Eddie Howe. Eddie Howe's on the phone to Elanga. Look, I'm going to make you a fantastic player. You're going to work alongside Isak. We're going to make it the Champions League. Like, that is really good. And when it works and you can go, yep, it's great. We don't have the time for that anymore. So I'm hoping that Newcastle are, and we are going to just start just ramping it up a little bit. I don't just want to buy anyone. Sunderland fans, if you're watching, I hope all of these players that you buy and actually work out for you, because it's just crazy. You've got like 6 players and I haven't heard of any of them, except for Xhaka. I've heard of him, but obviously, he's ancient now. But that's not what Newcastle want. So there's a line somewhere, and Newcastle need to just find it, because we're far too over here. As I said, I think Sunderland are over there somewhere. Unless they'll work out and then, clip it up and show it back to me, which who knows, maybe it will. They need to spend the money, because the Premier League, the way it works, you have to spend. So, all good luck to them. Look forward to beating them twice this season. But for Newcastle, we need to find the line, because we're just here. We're sending bloody letters in the post to second-class stamp on this bid for Wissa. So I've got on a bit of a tangent there, but I do hope that Newcastle really kind of knuckle down and change this kind of process. And as I say, the Wissa one's sounds like it's going to be tough. And the other striker we're linked with, I think, in fairness, I would prefer it on a long-term basis, and it is Sesko from Red Bull Leipzig. It's a player we've been linked with before. It's a player that I would love to see Newcastle sign. And I believe that it is a very good target for Newcastle to have. And the reports are now, that Arsenal have gone and got their striker. Chelsea have gone and bought 4. Liverpool are supposedly in for Ekitike. Are they? Or are they just like, we're using it as a way to get Isak and it hasn't worked, which again, I don't see the logic in. Why? Surely they would let us buy Ekitike, and then when we have our backup striker sorted, then they try and buy Isak, and then we tell them to bog off. But surely that works better anyway. They reckon that everybody else is kind of finding their place, which means that hopefully Newcastle aren't shopping in maybe the market we want it to be, because these players have gone, but at least starting to shop in a market where we aren't rivaling with other teams. And it seems that Sesko is a player that could be available. However, I don't think it would be a cheap fee. I think it would be another huge fee for Sesko. And this is where I mentioned with Wissa a moment ago on him kind of being able to play a lot of positions. I don't think Sesko's necessarily that player. I think he would come with a big price tag. He'll, people are saying he could be as good as Haaland. Like, he is kind of that striker, bully, big lad. Scoring goals. Red Bull Leipzig, fair enough, they didn't get Champions League football, but they've got money behind them. They're going to pump more money in this summer, and they are going to want to try and push on and challenge the big dogs over in Germany. Letting go of Sesko isn't helping with that, unless they sell him for like record fees, and that's with Newcastle. If we could get him on a decent deal, I think he would be a fantastic project player. Well, I say that, but when he's playing behind Alexander Isak, every player is kind of that. But his versatility, I don't think, is like left, right, and if Isak's playing, he can do something else. It would kind of be either he's up front or he's not. So, and you know what? If you think I'm wrong about that, or you think I'm being a little bit harsh there, then that's absolutely fine. Let me know in the comments. But I like it. I like Sesko. I think as in talk about number 9. Like if he's like keeping 14, I think he is a number 9. He's what I would say is a number 9. and would be good for Newcastle, but I just don't know that he suits Eddie. And at the price tag, I'm not so sure for me. But there is a player that is still being heavily linked. However, seems to be Newcastle are looking at alternative options because of, once again, the time frame that we're landing on. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Newcastle really are starting to widen that net and try and pull in. But reports are that Scalvini continues to be Newcastle's #1 centre-back target at the big, big fee of £50 million. Drop a like on this video if you would like to see Scalvini be Newcastle's next signing, because I absolutely know that I would. I have to say I wanted it to be Ekitike, and it would seem that because of maybe the time it's taken over the strikers and because of what's happened, that Newcastle are refocusing and maybe looking at some of the other positions on the pitch. They reckon Trafford is sat at home playing on the Xbox. Burnley are on the pre-season tour. Trafford's at home playing on the Xbox, wondering when he's finally going to get a phone call because someone has either paid the extra $2 million or Burnley has let us off. Well, they reckon Burnley want $40 million, which is nuts, to be honest. The question is whether they're just going to pull the price down or whether Newcastle look elsewhere. But it would seem that the goalkeeper situation has just gone completely quiet, and instead, as I say, it's those centre backs we're looking at with a few extra names starting to pop up. So I think Scalvini is definitely a player that lots of Newcastle fans have taken a fancy for, and I can see why. 21 years old, and I think has the makings of becoming a very, very, very good player. However, as it is with all of this media stuff, Scalvini gets linked. I don't think Newcastle are fighting off too many other teams for him. It's just that they are seeing the media presence, seeing what's going on, and are turning around and going, well, if it was on the sly and it was 30 million, it might have gone through quite all right. But because other people are hearing about it, because of the media focusing on it, and they're gravitating to it, it's like, oh, well, actually, we'll have 50. And Newcastle are going, well, no. I think we've probably got a fee in our minds that we think is correct, and they are just overloading it, as it is with every player in this market. And that's when Newcastle, that's where I'm getting frustrated. I won't put this one on you guys. If it is you, tell me down below. But this is where I'm starting to get a frustration, because you talk about João Pedro for 50 million, and then Chelsea come in and just go 60. Now, I appreciate that it's ridiculous. Chelsea have just got paid like 300 million for doing a competition I was going to say nobody cares about. You can decide on that point if you want to. Could we have not just pushed it? Well, as it happens, it turned out that João Pedro wanted his London digs, didn't he? So that's a little bit different. I would still argue that the Ekitike one's not over. I would reckon we had a fee down for 75 million. Frankfurt have got greedy. Ekitike's agents probably got greedy, and Ekitike's probably looked at it and, fair play to the lad. He's looked at two teams, and Liverpool probably offering more money, and they just won the league last season. So when you've got two people in front of you, however, Liverpool never placed a bid. So, and if they don't, then he's lost the move altogether. So we'll watch and see what happens. But yeah, part of me hopes that isn't actually over. And then part of me hopes that, Liverpool don't put a bid in and then he just stays there and he doesn't go anywhere because he's mucked us around and then didn't get the move he was hoping for. But some of the other centre-back names are coming out. So one of them is young 22-year-old Juventus centre-back Savona. He has only really just grown into the Juventus first team this year. Has played majority at right back, which I think had a lot of Newcastle fans kind of head in hands, like 6'4" right back, and Newcastle want to buy him. It's like, is Trippier and Tino not enough? Is this another Dan Burn? But from all accounts and from what the Juventus fans have said, is that really he's a centre-back playing right back, and that as he progresses in his career, 6'4", he would naturally kind of come into that centre-back position. We've spoken about this plenty of times before, that Eddie Howe is, I think, starting to evolve a little bit. He's starting to get the players that's allowing him to do a little bit more with the team than he was previously, aka being brave and maybe dropping Joe Linton out in a game we've got a lot of the ball, putting Ekitike, that was the idea of him, playing him and Isak up front together. Like it's clear that Eddie Howe is kind of starting to space himself out. And Scalvini, I think, would probably fit very nicely as the right-sided centre-back of a back three. So with that in mind, I don't mind it. Eddie Howe loves his versatility, and I think he's bringing a little bit of that. Is he got the ceiling of a Scalvini in my eyes right now? Probably not. You know, is he going to go on to be Juventus's next centre-back? The reports from the Juventus players is the Juventus fans doesn't seem to be. However, they would say he's certainly better than Lloyd Kelly. So I guess there's a little bit of a win there. And because of this, the fee being discussed is kind of 20 million as opposed to the 50. And then the other centre-back that, well, in fairness, there's been two. There's one being linked just before I come on. It is Targuera from Valencia, 23-year-old Spanish lad. He was actually playing in the 21 Spanish team, so he has got a little bit of experience and by all means played a lot of games for Valencia last year as well. Finished the last few games on the bench, to be fair, but again, young, upcoming centre-back. And then the one that's being touted just this morning is Wissa from Inter Milan. Again, another centre-back that's kind of filling the airwaves here. So if there's any one of those there that you like, drop a like. Let me know down in the comments. Drop a like. I think for me it will be Scalvini. So if you're liking him, drop the like on the video. We'll see what the likes are like on that one. But yeah, thoughts and comments down below. Few strikers there. Obviously, it has been a busy, stressful, exciting week. And I did say throughout this week that it was nice to be in there and having known that Newcastle are fighting for these players. But having watched Eddie Howe's interview yesterday and seen a little bit of like the behind the scenes on the effort that he's put in to try and get stuff done before we all jet off, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. The money's there. Eddie Howe's basically saying in the video that we need to do more and that we need to bring in players. You know, you've got good old big Yasser chairman saying like Isak's going nowhere. Like we're not selling him. So big up. Like there is. The owners are involved. Eddie Howe's involved. People are trying to make things work. It has been one of those weeks where we've pushed and have kind of fell into a day-to-day where it's gone a little bit quiet and, you know, what's going on next. But we've got the Celtic game tomorrow. If you go and let me know down below. Is it 10,000 Geordie's heading for it? So, yeah, gotta hope it's going to be a fantastic day out regardless. Beers in Glasgow should be good fun. But thoughts and comments down below on that discussed today. I've talked for ages there. So hopefully you've enjoyed it. As I say, with your cup of tea or your beer. You might have 2 or 3 in the time I've been talking. Thank you for watching, guys. As I say, if you are still watching 20 minutes later, goodness grief, drop a like on the video, subscribe, and do not miss out on the next one. Hopefully it's singing and dancing drunk tomorrow after Newcastle beat Celtic 3-0. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll catch you later.